Hello, good morning, and welcome to today's class. Today's class is a continuation of our previous class on variation, where we said a variation is the relationship between two or more quantities in which a change in one quantity leads to a corresponding change in the other quantity. And we said variation can be classified into direct variation, inverse variation, joint variation, and partial variations, of which we gave the relationship how it is expressed in variation. Let's look at some of the objectives of variation, of which we said at the end of this class, each student ought to learn how to solve problems involving direct, inverse, joint, and partial variations. And you should be able to know how to apply variations to physical laws and real-life situations. At our previous class, we dealt precisely with direct variation. And in today's class, we are going to continue with the inverse variation. Inverse variation, we said, is the relationship between two or more quantities, whereby an increase in one quantity leads to a corresponding decrease in another quantity. In inverse variation, we said y varies inversely as x is written as y is directly proportional to 1 over x, or in equation form, we said y is equal to k over x, where k is a constant. Let's take some examples on inverse variation. If v varies inversely as w and v is equal to 120 when w is equals to 6, we are to find v when w is equal to 9. First and foremost, we are going to express such relationship in variation. Thereafter, we express it as an equation and simplify. So, if v varies inversely as w, how do we write that in variation? We said v varies inversely as w, and we are going to express this as an equation which gives us v is equal to k over w, where k is said to be a constant. Now we are told that when w is equal to 6, v is equal to 120, that we should find v when w is equal to 9. Before we find v, we are going to find the relationship between v and w only, meaning we are going to get the value of k. And how do I get the value of k? I'm going to make k the subject of the formula and substitute v for 120 and w for 6 to get my value of k, such that I'll have, this is over 1. When I cross multiply, it's going to give me k is equal to vw. Let me call this equation 1. So I'm going to substitute values of v and w to get my value for k, such that k is equal to, we have been given that v is 120, so this is going to be 120 times w, and w is 6, such that my k is equal to, this will give me 0, this is 12, 2 carry 1, and that will be 7, so that my k is equal to 720. Now the relationship between v and w can be described to be v is equal to 720 divided by w. This is the relationship between v and w. Now the question says we should find v when w is equal to 9. That is, when w is equal to 9, V will be equal to, we have the relationship that V is equal to 720 divided by W. This is going to be 720 divided by W, and W has been given to be what? 9. And this is going to give us 9 into itself is 1, 9 into 72 is 8, and 9 into 0 is 0. So our answer is that V is equal to 80 when W is equal to 9. Let's take more examples. Example 2 says the resistance R ohms of an electric conductor of fixed length and uniform cross-section varies inversely as the square of the diameter d centimeter of its cross section. If the resistance is 0.32 ohms when the diameter is 1.5 centimeters, we should find A, the relationship between R and D, B, the value of D when R is 18 ohms. So I'll first of all get to find the relationship between R and D before I can find the value of D when R is given. So the relationship between R and D is, we say the resistance R ohms of an electrical conductor of fixed length and uniform cross-sectional area varies inversely as the square of the diameter D. So R, which is the resistance, varies inversely as the square of D. So this is how it is represented in proportionality. So expressing this as an equation, we said R is equal to K divided by D squared. And when you make K the subject of the formula, you have it that K is equal to RD squared. So in order for me to get my value of K, I'm going to substitute values of R and D as given. We are told that if the resistance of 0.32 ohms when diameter is 1.5 centimeters, so R is given to be 0.32 to be multiplied by D, which is 1.5 squared. So I'm going to express these decimal fractions into fractions, and this is going to give me K is equal to 0.32 can be said to be 32 divided by 100. How did I get 100? By multiplying both the numerator and the denominator by 100. To be multiplied by 1.5 can be said to be 3 over 2 all squared. So when you simplify, you have K to be equal to 32 divided by 100 multiplied by 3 over 2 squared is going to give us 3 squared is 9 divided by 2 squared, which is 4. This is going to give me K is equal to, I'm going to simplify, 4 into itself is 1, 4 into 32 is 8, and something can still go. 4 into 8 is 2, 4 into 100 gives us 25, and this is going to be K is equal to 2 times 9 divided by 25. K is equal to 2 times 9 is 18 divided by 25. So I have gotten my value of K to be 18 over 25. I'm going to resubstitute it into this equation to get the relationship between R and D. So therefore, R is equal to K is 18 divided by 24 to be multiplied by 1 over D squared. So that when you simplify, you have your R to be equal to 18 divided by 25D squared. So this is the relationship between R and D. Let's go to question B. B says we should find the value of D when R is 18 ohms. So we have already gotten the relationship that R is equal to 18 divided by 25D squared. So when you substitute 18 for R, that is going to be 18 is equal to 18 divided by 25D squared. That means I'm going to make this D the subject of the formula. And when you do that, you have 18 times 25D squared is equal to 18. Dividing both sides by 18 times 25, we are going to have 18 multiplied by 25D squared divided by 18 times 25 is equal to 18 divided by 18 times 25, of which this will cancel out this, and 18 into itself is 1, 18 into 25, 18 into 18 is 1, leaving us with this squared is equal to 1 over 25. So if this squared is equal to 1 over 25, our D is equal to square root of 1 divided by 25, of which this can also be simplified to be root 1 divided by root 25, which will give us square root of 1 is 1 and square root of 25 is 5, so that our D is equal to 1 over 5, or in decimal fraction is going to give us 0.2 centimeters as our answer. Next question is drawn from exercise 7.5, question number 1 of your new concept general mathematics for SS1. And the question says, if y varies inversely as x and y is equal to 2 when x is equal to 3, you should find y when x is equal to 6. And this happens to be a y question. So first and foremost, we are going to write the relationship between y and x, form the equation, and thereafter get a value of k, which we will resubstitute to get the relationship between y and x. So we said y varies inversely, and we'll write it as y is inversely proportional to x, which can also be written as y is equals to k over x. Now, getting a value of k, let me call this equation 1. Getting a value of k, we'll have it that k is equals to xy, of which we are given the value of y to be 2 when x is 3. So I'm going to substitute that to find my value of k, and that will be k is equal to x is 3 times y is 2, leaving us with 2 times 3 is 6, so that k is equal to 6. I'm going to substitute the value of k for 6 into equation 1, and that is going to give me y is equal to 6 over x, and this is the relationship between y and x. The question says we should find y when x is equal to 6. So what we are to do in this case is to substitute the value of x into this equation to get our value of y, and that will give us that y will be equal to 6 divided by 6 when x is equal to 6, and we'll have it with y is equals to 6 into itself is 1, 6 into itself is 1, so that our answer for y is equal to 1. That is, y is equal to 1 when x is equal to 6. Question 2 says t is inversely proportional to x squared given that t is equal to 9 when s is equal to 10, that we should find t if s is equal to 6. So what we are going to do is to express it in an equation form which will have that t, since it is inversely proportional to x squared, we can express it to be equal to, we'll say t is equal to k divided by x squared. This is the equation, and making k the subject of the formula, we'll say we'll cross multiply, leaving us with k is equal to t x s squared, and we have values of t and s given, so we have k to be equal to, t is given as 9 while s is given as 10. So we are going to square it to get our value of k, and that will be k is equal to 9 times 100 squared. 10 squared is 100, giving us the value of k to be 900. Question A says we should find t if s is equal to 6. So if k is equal to 900, resubstituting it back into equation 1 gives us that t is equal to 900 divided by s squared, and this is the relationship between t and s. So we will now be using this relationship to solve every other question as it pertains to this problem. So the question says we should solve for t if s is equal to 6. So I'm going to substitute s for 6 in this equation 2 to get my value of t, and that will give us t to be equal to 900 divided by 6 squared, which is equal to 900 divided by 6 times 6, which is said to be 900 divided by 36. 9 can divide 936. 9 into 900 is 100, into 36 is 4, and 4 can also divide. 4 into itself is 1, 4 into 100 is 25, so that our t is equal to 25 when s is equal to 6. B says we should solve for s if t is equal to 4. So I'm going to substitute t for 4 in this equation and solve for s, and that will give us 4 is equal to 900 divided by s squared. So I will cross multiply, and that will be 4s squared is equal to 900. Dividing both sides by 4, I will have s squared is equal to 900 divided by 4. And 900 divided by 4, we said 4 into itself is 1, 4 into 9 is 2, remainder 1, 4 into 10 is 2, remainder 2. 4 into 20 is 5, so that we have s squared to be equal to 225, and s, when you find the square root of both sides, you have s to be square root of 225, and s is equal to 15, for it is 15 that when it multiplies itself will give you 225. So s is equal to 15 when p is equal to 4. Question 3 says, if p is inversely proportional to q and p is equal to 5 when q is equal to 4, what is the value of q when p is equal to 25? Now, whenever you are given a problem on variation, you should first of all get the relationship between the two or more variables before you go ahead solving for other unknown quantities. So we say p is inversely proportional to q, which I will represent as p is inversely proportional to q. As an equation, we say p is equal to k divided by q. So this is said to be my equation 1. I'm going to make k the subject of the formula, get my value of k, and resubstitute it back into this equation, and that will give me the relationship between p and q, so that my k, when you cross multiply, you have k to be equal to p times q, of which we have been given values of p and q to be 5 and 4, so that this becomes 5 times 4, giving us value of k to be equal to 20. I have gotten my value of k to be 20. I will now resubstitute it back into equation 1, and that becomes p is equal to 20 divided by q, meaning if I want to get my value of p, is all I need is, if I'm given the value of q, divide 20 by q, and that will give me my value of p. So I'm asked to find the value of q when p is equal to 25. So what I'm going to do is to substitute p for 25 in this equation and simplify. So that will give me 25 is equal to 20 divided by q. When you cross multiply, you have 25q is equal to 20. Dividing both sides by 25, you have 25q divided by 25 is equal to 20 divided by 25. 25 into itself is 1, leaving us with q is equal to, let's simplify this to its lowest term, 5 into 20 is 4, and 5 into 25 is 5, so that our q becomes 4 over 5 as our answer. In this next example, we are told that if t varies inversely as s and t is equal to 2 when s is equal to 60, we should find the relationship between t and s. So let's go. We said t is inversely proportional to s. T is equal to k over s. Call this equation 1, making k the subject of the formula. We said k is equals to ts, of which we have values of t and s have been given to be 2 and 60. So I have my k to be equal to 2 times 60, which is equals to 120. Substituting k for 120 in equation 1, I will have t is equal to 120 divided by s. This is the relationship between t and s. B says, We should find the value of t when s is equal to 90, and the relationship has already been given to us as t is equal to 120 divided by s. So I'm going to substitute s for 90 in this equation, and that will give me my value of t, so that t will be equal to 120 divided by 90, given that s is equal to 90, and if I divide both sides by 10, it's going to give me 12 over 9, of which 3 can still go. 3 into 9 is 3, 3 into 12 is 4, leaving us with t is equal to 4 over 3, or 1 whole number 1 over 3. C says we should find the value of s when t is equal to 2.5, of which we are going to substitute the value of t in the equation, and this is going to be 2.5 is equal to 120 divided by s. Expressing 2.5 as an improper fraction, this is said to be 5 over 2 is equal to 120 divided by s. I'm going to cross multiply, and that will give me 5s is equal to 120 times 2. Dividing both sides by 5 will cancel 5, and this will be divided by 5, leaving us with s to be equal to 5 into itself is 1, 5 into 12 will give me, will go 2 times, remainder 2, and 5 into 20 is 4, so that my value of s is said to be 24 times 2, and that means s is equal to 48. So s is equal to 48 when t is 2.5. In this next example, we are told that y is inversely proportional to x squared, which can be said to be y is inversely proportional to x squared. And writing this as an equation, we have y is equal to k divided by s squared. Making k the subject of the formula, we have k, when you cross multiply, is equal to x squared y, and substituting the values of x and y, we said x is given to be 2, so this is going to be 2 squared times value of y is 10, which is equal to 2 squared is 4, 4 times 10, and 4 times 10 is said to be 40, so that k is equal to 40, and resubstituting the value of k into equation 1 gives us y is equal to 40 divided by x squared as the relationship between y and x squared. The question says, what is y when x is equal to 10? All we need to do is to substitute 10 for x in this relationship, so that y is said to be 40 divided by 10 squared, and this is said to be 40 divided by 10 squared is 100, and 10 will cancel, will go. 2 into 4 is 2, 2 into 10 is 5, leaving us with 2 over 5 as our value of y when x is equal to 10. Question 6 says the intensity I of illumination given by a projector varies inversely as the square of the distance. So representing that in variation, we said I is inversely proportional to d squared. As an equation, we said I is equal to k divided by d squared. Call this equation 1. Making k the subject of the formula by cross multiplying, we will say k is equal to d squared I, and we have values of d and I given us that if the projector is 20 meters from the screen, meaning d is equal to 20, that is k is equal to 20 squared times I, which is the intensity is given as 2.5, so I'm going to multiply 20 squared by 2.5, leaving me with k is equal to 20 squared means 20 times 20, and that is 400 times 2.5. Writing it as a fraction is said to be 5/2. So when you simplify out, you are going to have 2 into itself is 1, 2 into 4 is 2, into 0 and into 0 is 0, leaving us with our value of k to be 200 times 5, and that will be 1,000. Now we are asked to find the distance when the intensity is 62.5. Now what you have to do first of all is to get the relationship, of which we have gotten a value of k, and we said I is equal to 1000 divided by d squared when you substitute 1000 for k in equation 1, giving us equation 2. Now for us to get the distance when the intensity is 62.5, we can go straight ahead to substitute 62.5 for I. So this is going to be 62.5 is equal to 1000 divided by d squared. Writing this as a fraction, we'll have it to be 62. Let's multiply both the numerator and denominator on the left hand side by 10. This is going to give me 625 divided by 10 is equal to 1000 divided by d squared. And when you try to make d squared the subject of the formula, you cross multiply, leaving us with 625 d squared is equal to 1000 times 10, and our d squared will be equal to 1000 times 10 divided by 625, of which d, making d the subject of the formula, will involve us finding the square root of both sides. So we have that d is equal to square root of 1000 times 10 will give us 10,000 divided by 625, and d will be equal to 10,000 can be expressed as 10 raised to power 4 divided by 625 can be said to be 25 squared, of which this can be simplified to be square root of 10 raised to the power 4 divided by square root of 25 squared. And when you simplify further, you have d to be equal to square root of 10 squared divided by square root of 25, and that will be This square will cancel the square root. This square will cancel the square root, leaving us with 10 squared divided by 25, which is equal to 100 divided by 25. And what can go? 25 into itself is 1. 25 into 100 is 4. So that our D now is given to be 4 meters as our answer. Question number 7 says, if R varies inversely as the square of H. How do we write that? R varies inversely as the square of H. As an equation, we have it to be R is equal to K divided by H. You call this your equation 1. Making K the subject of the formula by cross multiplying gives us K is equal to HR, with values of H and R given as 6 and 4. We have K to be equal to 6 times 4, which is equal to 24. Substituting value of K into equation 1 leaves us with R to be equal to 24 divided by H, and we say equation 2 is the relationship between R and H. A says we should find R when H is equal to 9. We are going to do a direct substitution, and this will give us R is equal to 24 divided by 9, which is equal to, what can go between 24 and 9? 3 can divide. 3 into 9 is 3, and 3 into 24 is 8, leaving us with R to be equal to 8 divided by 3, which is equivalent to 2 whole number 2 over 3. B requires us to find H when R is equal to 8. Substituting the value of R into equation 2 gives us 8 is equal to 24 divided by H. Making H the subject of the formula by cross multiplying, we'll have 8H is equal to 24. And when you divide both sides by 8, leaves us with H is equal to 24 divided by 8, of which 8 into itself is 1, 8 into 24 is 3. That is, our value of H is said to be 3 when R is equal to 8. Next says we should find H in terms of R. H in terms of R. That means you should make H the subject of the formula. And if we have equation 2 giving us R is equal to 24 over H, all you need to do is to make H the subject of the formula by simple cross multiplication. This leaves us with HR is equal to 24, and when you divide both sides by R, you have H is equal to 24 over R. This is what you will get, or this is what you should get when you are asked to find H in terms of R. Question 8 says the number of reams of paper to be produced varies inversely as the cost. Let's choose number of reams to be N and cost to be C. So we say N, let N be equal to number of reams and C to be the cost. So we have it that the number of reams of paper to be produced varies inversely as the cost, that is, N varies inversely as C, which is N is equal to K over c. Call this equation 1. Making k the subject of the formula by cross multiplying, you have k is equals to nc. And when you substitute, you have your k to be equal to, we are told that n is equal to 50 when the cost is 45 naira. So we are going to multiply 50 by 45, and our k is equal to 450 times 5. K is equal to 5 times 0 is 0, 5 times 5 is 25, give us 5, carry 2, 5 times 4 is 20, and plus 2 is 22. So our value of k is equal to 2,250. So resubstituting value of k into equation 1, we have n to be equal to 2,250 divided by c. So this is the relationship between n and c. So question 9 says, if y varies inversely as the square root of x, how do you write that in variation? We said y varies inversely as the square root of x. So as an equation, we have it that y is equal to k divided by root x. Call this equation 1, of which when we sort for k by cross multiplying, we have our k to be equal to y root x, and substituting values of y and x, we can get our value of k, that y is equal to 5 when s is equal to 16, and that will be k is equal to 5 times square root of 16 is 4, and our value of k is said to be 5 times 4, which is 20. I'm going to substitute k for 20 into equation 1, and that will leave us with y is equal to 20 divided by root x. A says we should find y if x is equal to 100. So if x is equal to 100, I'm going to have y to be equal to 20 divided by square root of 100, which is going to give me 20 divided by square root of 100 is 10, and 10 into 20 is said to be 2, meaning y is going to be 2 if x is said to be 100. B says we should find x if y is 60. So B, if y is equal to 60, x will be, I'll substitute 60 for y is equal to 20 divided by root x, of which when you cross multiply, you have this to be 60 root x is equal to 20, and when you divide both sides by 60, it will leave us with root x is equal to 20 divided by 60. When you divide both sides by 10, you have this, and this is going to leave us with 2 into itself is 1, 2 into 6 is 3, which is equal to 1 over 3. Now for us to make x the subject of the formula, we are going to square both sides, and when you square both sides, you are going to have on the left hand side x is equal to 1 over 3 squared, and this is going to be 1 over 3 times 1 over 3, and 1 over 3 times 1 over 3 is said to be 1 over 9, so that x is 1 over 9 when y is 60. That brings us to the end of today's class. In today's class, we have been able to solve problems on inverse variation, of which, as a reminder, we said inverse variation is the relationship between two quantities whereby an increase in one quantity leads to a corresponding decrease in the other quantity or quantities, and also a decrease in one quantity leads to an increase in the other quantities. In this video, we have been able to deal precisely with inverse variation. Subsequently, in our next class, we are going to be looking at problems on joint variation and partial variation. For more videos on mathematics, further math, and physics, do subscribe to our channel to get more of these videos. Thank you and God bless you.